Welcome to all of you. In this short video, I am going to take you through the significance of MSME branding. I am Vivek Sharma. I have actively worked with many MSMEs across India and conducted many conferences and seminars for them. So I thought let me share some interesting aspects of MSME branding, which I am sure will help MSMEs in creating a brand for themselves. So the first thing that we need to know is that what is branding? Uh, Of course, the definition of it, knowing definition of it does not in itself solve the problem, but it's a good idea to understand what exactly is this. So branding is a practice of creating a name, symbol or design that identifies and differentiates a product from other products. You know, in our life, we often identify products with the brands. So if I have to buy something, as an individual, I always go by the brand. The trust is actually in the brand. So if you buy a television, for instance, you will not buy television of a company whose brand is not known, and that's why companies spend so much on building the brand. While big businesses can afford a lot of money to build the brand, it is little different in case of MSMEs whose business size is small. But still, this does not mean that MSMEs should not build brand and should not spend money on that. There are many small businesses which have grown over a period of time, and they have now become so big that they are now identified by the strong brand that they have built in the process of their growth. I always give example of Havels, which started as a very small business in 1960s, and today we can see that it is such a strong brand. Havels has created some of the most interesting advertisements that you would have ever come across, and it also signed Rajesh Khanna at one point of time to build a very strong brand. Now, let me tell you that why branding is important. Branding is very important because it's the creation of an identity for a business. Today I know businesses by their brand. It helps in customer acquisition. This goes without saying. It helps in creation of value for the business. There are many companies who are valued hugely because of the brand that they carry. I mean, today we all know brands like Coca-Cola, for that matter, in insurance like LIC, which has huge value, and this value has come not just because what business has done, but because the brand that it has built over a period of time. Branding also helps in growth of business. It's very difficult to grow a business which is not branded and which cannot be identified by people. So branding is very important for growth of the business. And last but not the least, it is also important for premium pricing. If you have a good brand which has won the trust of the people, it won't be difficult for you to charge a price which is higher than what you call as the normal price. So while you spend on building the brand, you recover it in form of a premium pricing. Now, what are the key requirements for branding? So, you know, uh, it's very important to understand that what matters for branding is the company name. You should have a company or a business name. Company probably may sound little technical and go by definition of the respective law of the land, but you should have a business whose name is easily identifiable. There has to be a memorable logo that every business should create for the brand, which means this logo is something that remains in the mind of the people. So today when I think of State Bank of India, one logo comes immediately in my mind, or when I think about LIC, one more logo comes to my mind. For that matter, when I think about even an international brand like Nike, their name will come, a particular image will come in my mind. Okay. Very important in the process of brand building is the customer servicing. Please remember that unless you win the trust of the customer, the brand is not built. So customer service is extremely important. And last but not the least, for every business, employees are the carriers of the brands, which means what is my brand as a business is actually what my employees deliver to the customers. So it's very important that employees are engaged in the branding process, and they carry this branding they create this branding for the benefit of the business. Of course, there may be other requirements, but since it is a short video, I'm not deliberating much on that. Now, how MSMEs can brand themselves? MSMEs cannot spend much on advertisement, but I will tell you, even when you go to a city and ask somebody that, can you tell me which is a good restaurant that I should go or visit? Uh, the, you will generally hear some common restaurant names. Now, what these restaurants have done is, these restaurants are not big players, they may be very small players, but they have created a brand for themselves in the city which has got a trust that has got built into that, or for that matter even a sweet shop that would have created a trust for itself, so people often refer to that name. So they don't spend much on advertisement, or rather they may not be spending anything on advertisement, but they have already created a trust. So it's very important that even if when MSME cannot advertise, it has to think about how to build that trust. That's very important. That trust can be created through customer service, as I said earlier, through continuous interaction with people and delivery of the message in terms of the value that that your product brings. But luckily today, you have the option of low cost advertisements, or low cost or nil cost options also are there, which can be used for MSMEs which can be used by MSMEs for branding. So social media is there. So you can use Facebook, you can use Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. These are all social media channels through which you can advertise. You can also make small spends to create the brand, but whatever brand that you have built, you can share it with your friends, your relatives, and the people who are connected with you on these social media links to spread the message of the brand. Gradually you also have to make some expenses to build that trust and trust in the brand, because you will have to spend a little bit to make the spread much more bigger than what it could be. You can also popularize your brand through networking. What do I mean by networking? So there are a lot of MSMEs conferences which keep on happening. I'm not talking about a big, huge conference. You can tie up with those conferences and demonstrate your product there. So this means that you are spending not huge amount, but you are spending amount which may be reasonable amount, like 10,000 to 20,000 rupees that you can spend. You can have the tie-ups, you can distribute your brochures, and you can also demonstrate your product to the customers by doing such kind of tie-ups. Don't go for big huge conferences, because that will be costly, but there are many entities who do small businesses where small conferences where you can be part of that and do popularize your product. And as I said earlier also, the best way to create the brand is to have a trust built in your customer. How do you build the trust in the customer? When you sell a product, be very mindful of the fact that if the customer faces any issue, you should be ready to resolve that issue. Customers retention is very important. Once a customer is happy with your service, he is likely to recommend your product, okay, or the service that you offer. Please don't be extremely profit driven in your initial days of business. Of course, I am not saying you should make loss for this, but you should be accommodative to the requirements of the customers, and that will really help you. uh, I have just shared certain brief aspects of branding. It's not possible to elaborate it much, but let me share my email ID with you, which is viveksharma95@rediffmail.com. In case you have any queries or questions, you can definitely write to me on this email ID. I will try to help you to the extent possible in working out a strategy on your branding. Thank you for your time.